Sure, we've got those tornado warnings still in place for western McHenry and DeKalb County. The leading line of this is really exiting those regions now, and we'll likely start to see some changes to our warnings going forward. They're still in place right now until 8 o'clock there. All of these in orange are your severe thunderstorm warnings. So as you look toward McHenry County, Lake in Illinois, DuPage, Cook County, and Will County, that's our newest round of severe thunderstorm warnings that was just issued. That's in place until 9 o'clock. You've got 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts and tornadoes possible. Now, just a little bit further west of there, Kane County, you're under severe thunderstorm warning. Kendall County, LaSalle County, and Grundy County, those are in place until 8 to 8:15, so about the next 15-20 minutes. I'll show you your radar and where that sits right now. Line of thunderstorms bowing out and producing those gusty winds anywhere from 60 to 90 miles per hour, which does do structural damage. And I want to show you velocity. Let's take a peek and make sure we're not missing any signs of rotation. There's part of this in Kane County we may just want to keep a close eye on. I think my computer is losing control here. We're going to keep a close eye there on parts of Kane County as that kind of leading edge of that bow starts to move into that area, and you can see where that sits right now, just north of Aurora especially. I'll put some locations on here for you. Near Blackberry, going to keep an eye on that. As you look further north toward Burlington, we'll keep an eye on that, and then all the way up into McHenry County near Marengo. So line of storms moving eastward. It is screaming eastward, very quickly moving, 65 miles per hour. So not a lot of lead time with this. Really, I think Bill mentioned this. If you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, it's not a bad idea to treat it as if it's a tornado warning, because we can quickly see those spin-ups occur and have that tornado be produced very quickly. And even if you don't get one, 90 mile per hour wind gusts is enough to do incredible damage. So you're just going to want to get into your safe spot, lowest level of your home, basement if you have it. If you don't, put as many walls between you and that tornado as you possibly can. So interior most room and lowest room that you've got. That is what I've got over here, you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. You know, it's worth pointing out, too, this is essentially a wall of wind coming into the area. But what you get on these bowed squall lines like this is you'll get little vortices or swirls to spin up, and they're little mini tornadoes. We saw that with that mammoth derecho that roared across Iowa and into Illinois. On the front end of it, they're not the conventional tornado. Most of your conventional tornadoes form on the backside of a thunderstorm, and often you'll see a hook echo on the radar. This one, you won't see the hook echo, and you may not see even the velocity signature with the intensity that you would with a classic conventional tornado. But that doesn't mean you don't have some tornadic swirls in there. And what will happen is the Weather Service, our colleagues there, will send crews out in the wake of this and start looking at the damage and assessing the nature of that damage. And as Morgan has so clearly pointed out, and Bill and Alyssa, you know, you can damage even without the storm's winds being rotary in the area.
Right.
By the way, if you're just joining us, either on WGN TV or WGN Radio, I just want to tell you the whole staff is in here, the whole weather office staff. Oh, we don't have a couple people here, but we've got about everybody. Bill Snyder is here. Morgan, by the way, I asked Morgan, what time do you get up to do the morning show? And she said 2:30 in the morning.
It's an early one. I want to actually get to this McHenry County storm.
Sure.
I'm just throwing our velocity on to get an idea if we've got any rotation. And I'm paying attention to this area here right over Harvard where you're seeing right there where that green is meeting that bright red. That's an indication that there may be some rotation happening. So there is potential tornadic activity in that area. And again, it's moving northeastward. So Harvard, you need to be in your safe place right now. And anybody east and northeast of there in McHenry County, let's see, it's Alden is popping up on my maps. I know that's a little bit more of a rural area, so we can't get a whole lot of towns to pop up here. But if you live near the Harvard area, north and northeast immediately of the Harvard area, all the way up to that Wisconsin line, again, I'm going to circle this for you so you can see that specific spot we want to pay attention to. This is our couplet. That's what we watch for when those reds and greens are really tight together like that. It's what indicates rotation. So tornado warning is in place right now in parts of western McHenry County. It does include Harvard there. Haven't gotten any official reports, but again, fast moving, not a lot of spotters in that area. So just a heads up for northern and especially that northeastern edge of McHenry County. Certainly could have some tornadic activity in that area. I'll give you a wide view just of those warnings and watches and everything that's going on. Everybody in our area under a tornado watch. Anything in red there is your tornado warning. Again, Harvard all the way down to Marengo and potentially seeing rotation there. Everybody in orange under a severe thunderstorm warning, but you're looking at anywhere from, looks like 70 to 90 mile per hour wind gusts, plus tornadoes possible to spin up. So really treat all of this as a dangerous situation. There's a look at what the radar looks like right now, moving through central McHenry County now and moving through central Kane, pushing actually into the eastern edge there. So up next will be northern Cook County, far western DuPage County, and more of eastern McHenry County. Further south, also still in those warnings through Kendall and Grundy County. And again, just want to give you that idea of all of this that we're watching, where any kind of spinning could occur. We're still seeing that potential rotation right over Harvard.
Yeah, Morgan, I just to there's some confirmation we may have our first tornado in just outside of our viewing area, out near Rockford, Belvedere in Boone County. An emergency manager reports that a roof has collapsed on a building on North State Street that's potentially tornado damage. So that, as that line moves to the east, and that was just at about 10 minutes ago, so it's quite possible that a tornado has touched down in the Belvedere area.
Yeah.
There's also confirmation to our south of a confirmed tornado near Paxton, and that was down in Ford, Iroquois. So on the southern end of that line of storms, a tornado was confirmed near Paxton, moving to the northeast at 40 miles per hour. So it's a very active evening.
And it bears mentioning that same area that I was talking about. You just watch that loop where that couplet is. That came from Belvedere. So you're saying confirmed tornado with, did you say a roof collapse?
Yes, a roof has collapsed on North State Street. That's, I believe, in the downtown Belvedere area.
Yep, it is.
So that's not officially confirmed yet, but it's quite possible that's related to tornado damage.
And you can see the couplet, and that's the exact same couplet that we're pointing out right over Harvard. So it's got a history now of producing potentially tornadic destruction there near Belvedere, and you can see it on this loop move right there over Harvard. So again, if you're in Harvard, near Harvard, north of there, near that Wisconsin line, this is moving northeast right over you, potential for tornadic activity there. And then obviously, like you mentioned, those gusty winds all around, Bill.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, guys, if you can go quickly back to Max 1 here, I'll show you not only this line. This is about 6 hours of movement. It's come all the way from Iowa eastward. This is the one bearing down on Chicago and in our western suburbs right now. But this is kind of interesting. You know, the Doppler radar is run by the Weather Service, and the antennas on those things are about 28 feet in diameter. You could stand 3 people inside that Doppler antenna that's rotating out at the Weather Service in Romeoville. Among the data that's fed back is which cell is producing severe weather, which cell is rotating. Look at this depiction here of how widespread across this entire line, all the way from near Milwaukee down to close to St. Louis. There are rotating supercellular thunderstorms right there. And these are the ones coming through the Fox Valley right now that we've been watching. So that's quite interesting. We've got rotation down south as you head towards Champaign and Decatur. This is a broad-based system across the area. And again, back to the conventional on-top view. And you see this line coming eastward. Now, it's interesting. The lightning is diminishing a little bit as it races eastward. You know, we're getting into later hours, post-sunset, and therefore you don't have quite the heating you once did. But still, this thing has a lot of momentum. And there are severe thunderstorm warnings now in effect for Chicago and Cook County, as well as areas out to the west.
Yeah, and Tom, I can take a look at those for everyone so they can see what's going on. So we have all of these severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. That is for the Chicago Metro. It includes LaSalle County, Grundy County, and into Kendall County. We are seeing reports of up to 90 mile per hour wind gusts possible. We're seeing the potential for straight line winds as well as tornadoes. Now, I want to take you to that tornado warning in effect right now. That still includes a portion of Boone and a portion of McHenry County. It's a small sliver, but it's still there. If you are in that location, you need to take shelter right now and get to a safe location because we have that potential of this storm producing a tornado. And again, we could see some significant tornadoes with this system as it's moving across the area. This is a very strong bow echo that we've seen moving across towards Chicago right now. And again, this is producing up to 60 to 90 mile per hour wind gusts. So it's important that you take note and take shelter as this system continues to push across the area. And we see those tornado warnings get issued. Right now, again, McHenry County is where we do have that tornado warning in effect. All of the areas in yellow on your screen are severe thunderstorm warnings. But again, those are producing some very strong severe thunderstorms. These storms are producing those wind gusts anywhere between 60 and 90 miles per hour, which is damaging winds. I'm going to send it over to Morgan now, who's going to have a look at what's going on next.
Yeah, I actually just want to zoom in and show you guys, if you can take my graphics full screen, just watching these velocities closely and keeping an eye on this area. It's right around the Pingree Grove, Rutland Township area. So you're south of Algonquin, you're just south of I-90. And while we don't have any kind of a tornado warning on this, we do have that severe thunderstorm warning that again, those tornadoes can spin up. So just keeping a close eye on this area here as well, Gilbert's area, the Dundee area, basically from the Elgin, Pingree Grove over I-90 to that Dundee area. So another one of those velocity areas we got to keep an eye on, and another one of those areas where we can see some of those spin ups happening out ahead of it. There's a look at your radar, what's going on exactly where you're at right now. Central McHenry County under this. Again, those areas of Kane County moving into now far north and western Cook County, leading edge here for DuPage and Will County as well. And again, just watching those, do you guys see this loop that we're watching just right here as it moves? I just think we got to keep a close little eye right there for any kind of tightening that's occurring there, guys.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting is look at the wall of wind behind that. We're getting these little spin ups on the front edge of it, but that whole green area is a solid area of west and southwest winds roaring in behind the cold front and capable of doing their own damage as well. This is a huge storm. Look at this current plot of wind gusts, and here's the flow of warm air that's coming in, but notice how it's being hit with westerly winds. That pileup of air right there where the wind shift is taking place is what's creating our squall line right there. And here are the winds we get into tomorrow. These will produce their own news because we'll have gusts approaching or passing 50 miles an hour without any thunderstorms involved tomorrow. So this storm is your full-purpose storm. Look at the isobars with this. It's like a giant atmospheric wind machine, and that wind is going to roar tomorrow. It'll be also a lot colder than it was today in the area. But this is the time of the year when you start expecting that. You know, April, May, and June are the big tornado months here in Illinois. April 21st, 1967, that's the area's biggest tornado outbreak. That was the day of the Belvedere, Oak Lawn, Lake Zurich tornadoes that were responsible for scores of deaths. One of the tornadoes picked up a school bus as school was ending, and the Belvedere and blew it a half mile across a cornfield. You know, these are terrible things. It's a sign of an atmosphere that's fighting it out as the retreating air of winter does battle with the growing area of warmth with spring around the metro area.
Bit of good news, Tom.
Yes.
They've canceled the tornado warning for Boone and McHenry, which was expected to expire at 8:30. So they've canceled that, but again, we still have the numerous severe thunderstorm warnings still across our area, and they're watching that tornado warning just to our south and east in Ford County, down in that little bit south of Kankakee there. So,
yeah.
But Morgan, we'll go back to Morgan here to show just kind of recap where we're at with the warnings.
Yeah, sure. If you take Max 2, there it is.
Yeah.
You can see where those warnings are that Bill was talking about. All severe thunderstorm warnings capable of producing anywhere from 70 to 90 mile per hour wind gusts. That is enough to do structural damage. Also on the leading edge of these, tornadoes cannot be ruled out to spin up. Again, reports of that potentially near Belvedere stretching north and eastern earlier toward the Harvard area. So we're keeping an eye on all of this. There's where your warnings sit right now. If you're in McHenry County, Lake County, Cook, DuPage, Will, you're under this until 9 p.m. Everybody west of there, so those parts of Kane, Kendall, Grundy, very far southeastern LaSalle County, you're under this until about 8:15. So another 5 minutes or so. That line's moving right through your area right now. That's what it looks like on radar. Even just these past few scans obviously losing a little luster as we get later and later into the evening hours, but still the potential to bring those strong winds. We see it on the velocity. I know Tom was talking about just that line of bright coloring there, which just indicates that behind it you're getting those really, really strong wind speeds. Even as the storm moves out, you're still dealing with winds behind it. I'll throw a tracker on here. I want to show you what's coming up next. Who's up next to be in on under some of this stuff, especially as we get in toward Cook County and the city. So there's your line, that bowing occurring, and unfortunately, I'm losing control of my computer out here, guys. Alyssa, are you ready? Can you take over?
You know what? I can take over. I don't have that ability out here to throw a tracker on, but I can talk about what we have on the radar right now. We have this bow echo line that's continuing to move through, and that's going to continue to push into the Chicago area. We still have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect across the Chicago metro and several counties just off to the west right now. And what we are looking at, as Morgan said, those 70 to 90 mile per hour wind gust potential. And we're going to continue to see that tracking across the area. We've seen those tornado warnings be expired over the past few minutes or so, but that doesn't rule out the potential of another tornado spinning up still ahead of this front as it continues to push towards the Chicago metro area. The main threat right now, though, is going to be those strong, damaging, destructive winds, again, anywhere between 70 and 90 mile per hour wind gusts, which will cause damage. And we have the potential of seeing those tornadoes spin up ahead of this system, as well as those straight line winds. So a lot going on here still, even though those tornado warnings have come to an end, doesn't mean we are out of the woods yet until this entire system is off to the east of us. I'll send it back.
Hey
Oh,
guys,
okay.
you know what? Our weather bug system, which is an amazing tool in a situation like this, because we have wind sensors and weather stations all across the area with a density that far exceeds any other such system in the area. Look at some of the wind gusts that have been reported by weather bug sensors. These are in eastern Iowa right here. Cedar Rapids, 70 miles an hour is Wingo, Iowa, 68. There's Muscatine and Iowa Falls. And then here are wind gusts in our area, closer to our region. And keep in mind, this is a sampling of the winds. There have no doubt been stronger winds between them. But at the airport, Aurora Municipal Airport out at Sugar Grove, just west of the town of Aurora, 64-mile-an-hour gusts, Rochelle, 58, Springfield, Illinois, 57, and Hillsboro, 57-mile-per-hour winds. By the way, everybody, I was just surveying some of the pictures we've gotten of the shelf clouds that folks have looked at. Those are those ominous-looking cylindrical clouds on the front end of these storms where the rain, cool air is gushing out of thunderstorms. They're always dark and very ominous-looking, and boy, the pictures we've gotten are something. So we're going to try and pull some of those out and show them to you during the 9 and 10 o'clock news hours around here because they're quite stunning. Bill, any new reports on wind gusts?
One of our observers just called out the Elgin area. He said as this line moved through, he had gusts of about 60 to 65 miles per hour, which is still formidable enough to do damage. Thank God it wasn't the 80 or 90 miles per hour winds, but you know, it's kind of an academic point. You can still knock down tree limbs and power lines with 60 mile per hour winds.
Yeah, that's Scott Hanneman who checks in with us with reports from our northwest suburbs. Yep. And Scott called us earlier this evening and said, wow, he said it was pouring with this system. And yet he said for a while, there was no wind. It was just raining cats and dogs. Yeah. Sometimes that happens when all the motion in the atmosphere goes into the vertical instead of blowing horizontally as wind. But we clearly have had horizontal winds, as you can see from these wind gusts, and that's about what's ready to enter the city boundary right here. Yeah. So we'll get some strong winds across the city. And I think beyond 9:30, 10 o'clock, this will have passed, and so will the severe weather risk from the thunderstorms in the city. But we've got a rough, hour and a half or so to go before that happens in the area. And then we'll have the backside winds with this large-scale storm. Hey, at least, Morgan and Allison, we're not shoveling the way they are up in the upper Midwest.
There you go. And more good news, we don't have any active tornado warnings out there at the moment. Again, all of these severe thunderstorm warnings do come with that tag where it is capable of producing a tornado. So you are under a severe thunderstorm warning for McHenry County, Lake in Illinois, Cook County, DuPage, Kane County, Kendall, Grundy, southeastern LaSalle, and Will County. This in place until 9 p.m., so fast moving. Look at your radar. There's your line of storms. That Boeing is where where we start to get some of those stronger winds. Our warning saying these can gust as high as 80, even 90 miles per hour. As Bill mentioned, we're getting some reports around the 65 mile per hour mark. So anywhere from that range, 60 to 80 looks good for these. I'll show you the velocity, not looking at any spin ups at this point. So I'm only showing you that since I've been showing it, just to kind of give you that indication that no current rotation happening with this. I did add a tracker on so we can see where this is going. It's moving again eastward quickly, 65 miles per hour, 8:24 O'Hare. So this is on your heels in about, what is that, 8-9 minutes for O'Hare, 8:35 for the city. So you've got about 15-20 minutes before this is downtown in the city. South Shore, 8:39, 8:50 near Gary in northwest Indiana, and then 9:11 p.m. is what our radar is tracking in terms of Michigan City. So again, that 9:30-ish time frame when we start to exit out of this. That line continues to progress eastward into these severe thunderstorm warned areas. Again, right now, no active tornado warnings, but we do have that tag of tornado possible with some of these severe thunderstorm warnings, guys.
It's wizarded, I think. I think, yeah.
Little communication behind the scenes here, guys. We were just tallying up the reports with this mammoth storm across the country.
Okay.
Over 200 reports now.
Over 200 reports of severe weather. We're not alone in this, guys. And what did you say the tornado count nationally
We're
is?
at 29.
29 tornadoes.
Wow. Yeah.
That's over 24 tornadoes that have been reported so far. And that's a number that will continue to grow.
Yeah.
Total severe reports approaching and even passing 200. We haven't had a chance to update all
Can you
this.
say that again? I'm sorry.
So that's pretty amazing stuff.
Couple of late arriving reports, Tom, of Leland, DeKalb County, 75 mile per hour wind gusts. Waterman in DeKalb County, 64 mile per hour wind gusts. So these storms are doing exactly as they're advertised. We've expected. So we got another. If we can get through the next hour and a half, we'll be out of the woods as far as severe weather goes. But we got to get this line through the city and through our northwestern Indiana counties before we can give the all clear.
Oh, absolutely. And again, the color coding here, the yellow area, the tornado watch that runs till 10 o'clock. The orange counties are under severe thunderstorm warnings, and that includes the city of Chicago and all of Cook County, as well as Lake County, Will County, northwest Lake County, Indiana. Folks in Indiana need not worry. This will reach your area as well. And we expect that to go out. I'm sorry, what was that? Alyssa. All right. That word from the control room, Alyssa, that you're ready to go.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about there was a confirmed roof collapse on a building near Belvedere, earlier this evening, produced by this storm, and it's possible tornado damage. Of course, we don't know that for sure at this time, but we're keeping an eye on that, and that's what we've just had come into our newsroom. Some of these reports coming in do have to do with sustained strong winds. Again, we've talked about those winds anywhere between 60 and 90 miles per hour, which is why we do still have these severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. You can see just to the backside of this, the further west counties have been allowed to expire, but that does not mean we're out of the woods. We still have that severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the metro area, and that line of storms right now is approaching and continuing to stay fairly strong. Again, we're looking at those gusts anywhere between 60 and 90 miles per hour. Still can't rule out a tornado spin up. It does look like a lot of that activity is behind us, but it's not out of the woods yet. So we're going to keep an eye on that for you. Of course, we'll let you know if any of those tornado warnings are issued again as this system continues to push into the Chicago metro area and, of course, across northwest Indiana, where we are seeing some of that activity as well right now.
Yeah, it's impressive. We don't want to leave out our neighbors in northwest Indiana. That radar, there are some heavy cells all the way from Iroquois and Kankakee counties, reaching into Newton and Jasper counties, Lake and Porter counties in northwest Indiana. Orange areas, thunderstorm warnings. The area right here is a flood watch, that white shaded area. Look at the expanse of the warnings. I mean, we counted earlier tonight, 38 states are being impacted by this system. Everywhere you see red triangles here, these are either thunderstorm or tornado watches. This yellow band, these are all tornado watches from our area southward. And then you get the high wind warnings. Storms up here, you've got a blizzard going on its backside. Winds wrap around the system. That's what will be hitting us toward morning and during the day tomorrow, and they'll be strong. And some of these storms still rotate rotating. Here's this activity in northwest Indiana and east central Illinois that I was mentioning. And you can see from the reflectivity, that's what these colors are. They tell you the intensity of the rainfall. We've got some very heavy cells going right now from eastern Will County and Kankakee County up into parts of Lake County, Porter County, Newton and Jasper counties in Indiana, eastward into LaPorte County. So, boy, folks like Crown Point, Rensselaer, Remington, Kankakee, just east of there, that whole area, looks like the area just east of Peatone is in on this as well.
We do have the new warning for Lake County that you mentioned, East Chicago. They're under the severe thunderstorm warning as well. So heavy downpours, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. If you're wondering about that area, that East Chicago, that very far northwestern kind of triangle there of Lake County, that's where we've got the severe thunderstorm warning. That's in place until 8:30. I can show you the radar there too. It's, again, near that East Chicago area. You could take my graphic full screen really quick so folks there can really see. There it is. That's where you're looking at the warning in place. That is warned for those 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So if you're tuning in, again, we have no active tornado warnings. These are all severe thunderstorm warnings. It has been allowed to expire. LaSalle County, Kane County, Kendall, DeKalb, and far western McHenry County no longer under warnings. This is now past you, likely still some gusty winds out there. And it's moving into the Chicago metro, and I'm reading this National Weather Service chat, guys, talking about how this is weakening a little bit as it gets closer to the city.
Yeah, you can see that in the lightning activity being tamped down some. You know, Morgan, it was interesting that that batch of showers, there almost seemed to be an arc to it in northwest Indiana.
You want me to get back to the zoom on that? Sure.
Yeah. Would you, have you looked at the velocity down there?
I can turn it on actually right now if you guys want to take max one. So that's your reflectivity.
Yeah.
Let me get our velocity on here.
That's that little notch you've been talking about. Well, not much going on there, huh?
Yeah, it's not looking like it. You know, and when I look at it on my phone, I was looking before I went on. It's a lot brighter, but not looking at any reds and greens coupled together there at this point.
Yeah, which is what you want to see if you are of the opinion that you've got a circulation going there that might be tornadic.
Yeah, right now more gusty winds, it looks like.
Yeah. Well, look at this, guys. How we've got rotating supercellular thunderstorms over a chunk of real estate right here. And that had been expected. You know, when winds change speed and direction with height, as they are here, these thunderstorms will start rotating. And you get kind of a corkscrew effect. The rising air, and all that warm, humid air we had today down here at ground level, will rotate as it goes up, and you get a tornadic circulation to occur at times. Two types of damaging winds from thunderstorms. Straight line winds, that's air dumping out of the cloud, hitting the ground and spraying out. It would be like taking a garden hose, pointing it at the ground with the water running, and when the water hits the ground, it sprays out in all directions. That's what the wind coming out of a thunderstorm does. But on the other hand, if the air is being drawn up into the cloud, which the jet stream helps accommodate, so does the warmth and buoyancy, then the air will rotate then too, much as water does going down a bathtub drain. And that's the way you develop the rotary circulations. And you can also develop rotary circulations, as Morgan and Alyssa have been pointing out, right on the edge of that bowed line of thunderstorms. And you'll get these little spin-ups right there when these straight line winds slam into slower moving air out ahead of them right there. Bill, you look like you had something you were going to talk about.
We just got in a report from our Marcus LaShock. His in-laws are out in the McChesney Park area, out near Rockford. Extensive damage to their house. A tree branch went through their ceiling and their chimney was blown off. So I don't know. This could either be related to a potential tornado, but I'm looking at some of these pictures and wow, the damage is extensive.
Oh, yeah. We're going to hear a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't heard from our news folks, and I know we will on the 9 o'clock news. Yeah. Be interesting to hear how our power outages are doing around the area.
Yeah.
The ComEd folks were geared up for this, and you've got to believe with the kind of wind that we've been blowing across the area that we've got some folks with trees down and power out, and we'll be quantifying that in the hours and minutes ahead.
Yeah, Tom, I want to point out really quick, we do have our first warnings coming into Indiana right now. Northern Indiana, we do have this severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Lake and Porter County for reports of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and also some hail there. So just as we head into the next few hours here of this system, or the next hour or so, we are starting to see those warnings pop up into northwest Indiana, and we're starting to see some of those warnings subside for areas to just the west of Chicago. Still under that severe thunderstorm warning across the Chicago area right now. Again, no tornado warnings in effect right now. That doesn't mean we are out of the woods with that threat. It does look like that storm is starting to diminish as it approaches Chicago, but we still have the threat of those very strong, damaging storms that Tom was talking about, between 60 and 90 miles per hour. But I wanted to show you just now, we do have that first warning out into northern Indiana. That's between Lake and Porter County. That's just been issued.
You know, it's interesting, Alyssa, that when Morgan put up that radar, that reflectivity scan, that's what caught my eye. This, you know, we've got one batch coming at us from the west, but this is kind of independent of it, operating on its own. And this thing looked pretty impressive. So clearly we're getting some parameters, some wind indications and so forth from this that have led to a group of thunderstorm warnings issued for northwest Indiana, independent of the squall line that still has to come in and move through that area right there. So, boy, an active night here. We pay dearly for these 70-degree days at this time of the year, don't we?
For sure.
Yeah, it really is something. Morgan, you have anything going on right there?
I can show you that warning, that northwest Indiana warning, that Porter County and parts of South and Eastern Lake County warning. That's the new one. If you take my graphics full screen, it'll be easier for you to see, and I'll zoom in on it here. That's what Tom was talking about, that he was keeping an eye on. This is our new warning in place until 8:45. 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible with this, and here's what it looks like on your radar. Some of those stronger storms entering right now the Cedar Creek area. It stretches all the way into parts of southern Porter County right now. Let me label some of these. Boone, Valparaiso seeing some of this, all the way up toward Westville. So those are those 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts under that severe thunderstorm warning. You're under that until 8:45. Tom, you mentioned you wanted to look at the velocity.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of bright red right over that I-65
so there is a little
corridor.
couplet there, huh?
Yeah, well, if nothing else, it's a real increased wind speed, right? So right on I-65 there, just east of Cedar Creek, seeing some pretty strong winds that you had mentioned.
Very interesting. Yeah, I was intrigued by that little curl in the radar returns there. It almost looked like there was some kind of mesoscale, medium-sized circulation going there, and that's the kind of thing sometimes, which is, see it there, the curl that goes up over southern Lake Michigan? That's often, sometimes a signal that there's some kind of little circulation embedded within the larger scale flow there. And, you know, we talked for many years. It was discovered down at the University of Illinois back in 1950 with early radar scans. The fact that tornadic thunderstorms often come across as hook echoes. They're very characteristic of medium-sized circulations from which tornadic circulation can emanate sometime. But you know what else is interesting here, ladies, is look at, and Bill, we got Bill here too. Look at the warnings have come down and the watches out in, well, I don't know. The watch may still be running, but I think it will be coming down imminently.
Yeah, it looks like the watch is still in effect until 10 p.m. tonight. I did want to talk to you about, we have some reports of those ComEd power outages. Most of them are focused around the Rockford area where we saw some of those really strong storms just about half an hour ago. We're seeing about 36,000 power outages there. Wow. So we are starting to see some of those reports come in. We've also seen reports just from the National Weather Service chat about trees being down across roads, some power lines down. So we're keeping an eye on that. Another report that came into our newsroom just a short while ago is the report of a roof collapse that was in Belvedere, that's in Boone County. That is some thunderstorm wind damage, possible tornado damage, not confirmed yet, but we do know that that was the Apollo Theater and that there was a concert going on at the time. I believe we do have a crew heading that direction to get us more information on what happened there. But that gives you an idea of just how strong these storms have been as they've tracked across the area. They were extremely strong when they moved through Rockford earlier this evening and still maintaining their strength somewhat as they approach the Chicago area, starting to die down a little bit, but we still have those severe thunderstorm warnings in effect right now across the Chicago metro area and down into northwest Indiana now, into Lake and Porter County, where we have that potential of those 60 to 90 mile per hour wind gusts. So we're not out of the woods with this yet. We still have that warning in effect, severe thunderstorm warning, and I believe most of the area is still under that tornado watch. I'm not sure if that's going to be taken down in the next half hour or so here, but at this point, that is still a possibility. Can't rule out yet a tornado developing as the system continues across the area.
You know, Alyssa, I'm wondering, and I don't know if the control room can do this or whether we'll see much at this hour, but we have cameras that are looking out from the top of the Hancock building and all. When I see a radar like that with a bowed line coming at us, I want to creep to the WGN weather window. Well, there it is. See, there's not much to see there. But what are we looking at? We're looking south there from the Hancock building. I'll bet if we looked west and northwest, maybe up Lakeshore Drive from the Hancock building, we would start seeing some lightning flashing out to the west, although the lightning has been subdued. No, we don't see them. Well, so much for that. But I'll tell you one thing. We know from the radar that the line is coming in and the winds will soon be hitting. There's the downtown area. Wouldn't imagine what's going on out to the west of us is going on here in the heart of the city from what we're seeing in the heart of the city because it's pretty quiet here at the moment. But I'll tell you, when this line goes through, we're going to get the skies to clear. We're going to be so-called dry slotted. That's where you get right under the strongest winds of the jet, and for a while the rains turn off, the clouds break up, and then by morning the backwash clouds have come in, along with them the gush of strong winds. There's our live camera traveling the streets of Chicago there. I don't know precisely where that is. Heading back to the station. Where is that? Do you know, Eric? Just past Target on Addison, heading east right there. So you can see pretty quiet here in the city at the moment.
Tom, a couple of late arriving wind reports
yes.
as that line moved through. We've got 64-mile-per-hour gusts reported at Sugar Grove at the Aurora Municipal Airport, 64 miles per hour in Naperville, 61-mile-per-hour gusts in Lamont. So these storms are doing exactly what we thought they would do, and you know, all it takes, a severe thunderstorm is 50 knots, which is 58 miles per hour. So anything above 58 miles per hour is considered a severe thunderstorm, and we're certainly getting reports now that the storms have produced severe weather.
You know, it's interesting too. There had been the expectation that maybe these wouldn't be huge hail producers. And yet, we've had numerous reports of 1-inch diameter hail in
Earlier,
Valparaiso. Yes. Bill, you did the list just a little while
we did
earlier.
Out in the Shanahan area.
Shanahan?
Yes, those are a lot of reports there of quarter-size hail, and that was along the first line that went through between 4 and 6 o'clock this evening. And you know, I should also mention, heard from our colleague Mike Jansen, who reports in his area near the Morton Grove area. He had a little over 2 inches of rain in about 45 minutes. So that first line of storms that went through, it produced more rain than certainly we were expecting, because we didn't anticipate much of a flood impact from these storms. We thought these were going to do more destructive winds and, of course, isolated tornadoes.
I've been averaging across scores of models. I came up with 6 to 7/10 of an inch as an average. But you know, thunderstorms do that. They produce localized wind fields and localized downpours.
Right.
And you know, when you have the kind of moisture in the atmosphere we did today, and you're lifting it and cooling it and saturating the column of air, you're going to get some incredible amounts of rain. Look at that. That's kind of an interesting 6-hour history on this line barreling out of Iowa across the Mississippi River, crossing the Quad Cities and Galesburg and Dubuque and Galena, and then coming roaring into Rockford, where look at the lightning as it went across Winnebago and Boone counties. Those were mean storms out there. It's going to be interesting to hear the damage assessed that has occurred there. You know, we're always at kind of a loss, especially at night, because you don't see the damage right away. We have so many storm chasers out in this day and age. But radar offers us a proxy indication of where the wind damage may be going on, because we can see the intensity of these storms and the wind fields they produce. And boy, those were some mean storms that went across that whole area. It looks like Dixon got in on that, and folks up in Stevenson County and out toward Joe Davis County out in northwest Illinois. We know that Dubuque had, 70-plus mile per hour winds.
There were other reports in eastern Iowa of 70 to 80, and even in northern Missouri as this main line of squall line approached our area. So they did some extensive damage out to
Yeah.
the west of us before it came into the Chicago metro area.
Well, this will be a national story because this storm has just covered a chunk of real estate that's something. By the way, this is one of these atmospheric river storms that have been slamming California and producing that record snowpack. This is the 11th one to roar into the country off the Pacific Ocean since December 22nd. And this one, they slam into California with Pacific moisture, jump across the Intermountain West where they produced incredible snowpacks, which are desperately needed given the drought that's gone on there for years. And then they jump into the plains where they can then plug into Gulf moisture and reinvigorate their precipitation. And by the time they come here, 98% of the precipitation that falls here in Chicago is a result of moisture that comes up from the Gulf of Mexico. And these storms are no exception. They were fueled by Gulf moisture and a buoyant atmosphere brought on by the warmest weather in almost 5 months. Yep. And I'll tell you something, in this day and age of numerical modeling, we so often hear in the weather profession folks saying, boy, I wish I had a job where I could be wrong every day and keep my job. And yet, this is one of these situations where this situation was absolutely nailed by the numerical models, even down to the hour these storms have come in.
Tom, I should just jump in real quick, and I know we're going to shift it over to Morgan in just a second, but just breaking now, the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for southeastern Cook County, northeast Illinois. A severe thunderstorm capable of a tornado was located over Richton Park or over Park Forest, moving to the east at 60 miles per hour. Again, this is radar indicated rotation here, not a confirmed tornado, but it's certainly, these storms are capable of producing a tornado. So this storm will be around Linwood at 8:40, which is about 4 minutes from now. Lansing, Munster, Indiana, Sauk Village, Ford Heights around 8:45. So if you're in those areas, definitely find shelter immediately at the lowest interior room of your household and away from any windows.
Yeah, and I can see Morgan adjusting her radar to look at the velocity field. Morgan, do you want to show us that little couplet there?
Switch over to Max 2, guys.
Yeah, we'll switch over to Morgan's Max.
All right, we'll get you a look here at that warning and just what exactly is going on. There's your severe thunderstorm warnings in orange, and there's your tornado warning. That's in the red in far southern Cook County. It's in place until 8:45, and it's radar indicated rotation there. So your radar in that area is showing that kind of little notch. You can see it just south of Thornton there even. We're just kind of watching where there may be some form of circulation. It's tough when you get so close to those radar sites to see those velocities really well. But I'll try to circle here where we're looking at. Olympia Fields, Park Forest, Chicago Heights area, Glenwood, Bloom. Those are all those areas that we're keeping an eye on with this current tornado warning. Again, southern Cook County under that tornado warning. It's until 8:45. It's located over Park Forest. It's radar indicated rotation. And I'm getting some more information here for you. Locations that would be included here.
Morgan, while you're doing that, if they can click over to Max 1, I've got the attribute table derived circulations. And you'll see the rotation right there? That's the unique aspect of Doppler radar. It can look and see velocities inside thunderstorms. Couldn't do that with the old radars. But these WSR 88Ds, as they're called, are just amazing systems. The one that came in our area came in shortly after the Plainfield tornado hit. Boy, if we had had that in our arsenal in 1990, we might have gotten the warning out much quicker. But, this technology takes decades to develop. But look at the circulation going into southern Cook County. So that's what's being analyzed.
Yep.
And you can see other rotating supercellular cells down there in southern Lake County, northern Newton and Jasper counties in northwest Indiana. So that's quite interesting. Bill, how long does that tornado warning run?
8:45. So it's as these storms are racing at 50 to 60 miles per hour. So this is one of those situations, as we described earlier, that some of these storms are moving so quickly that you don't have a lot of time to react. So to these warnings, and so this is one of those cases right now. But we've been talking all along. Even if your area is not in a tornado warning, any one of these severe thunderstorm warnings are capable of spinning up a tornado. So you almost want to treat the severe thunderstorm warnings as if they were tornado warnings, just because these storms are moving so quickly. And capable of producing destructive winds.
Yeah, and there's such a broad wind field coming in. I mean, it literally is like a wall of wind coming at you, and that's the cold front going through the area.
Yeah.
And things will quiet down once this goes by. Not in terms of wind. The wind will come roaring in again in the pre-dawn hours and during the day tomorrow, but that'll be non-thunderstorm type wind right there.
Yeah, Tom,
But,
I just want to take a closer look at this tornado warning that was just issued. That is until 10 p.m. tonight, and that is for southern Cook County. It's located over Earl Park right now, Fowler and Oxford. It's moving northeast at 15 miles per hour, and this is a tornado warning. It's tracking circulation that's tracking towards Madison right now. So if you are in that southern Cook County, that very small red square on your screen, that's where we do have that tornado warning in effect right now, and that is going to be in effect for a little while yet. So definitely want to get to your safe place in your home if you are in that area, because we've seen that radar indication of a possible tornado. So that means it's time to get in your safe place. These are very quick moving storms. We're seeing them move anywhere between 50 and 60 miles per hour. This one is moving northeast at about 50 miles per hour. And that's why we have seen that tornado warning issued just recently here. It looked like the storm was dying down, but as we said, it's not quite done yet. Still popping off some of these storms, or some of these tornadoes rather, ahead of this storm system as it's continuing to push through. So keep an eye on this. If you are in that area, it is time to get to a safe place immediately.
Hey, Alyssa, look just south of the Shanahan identifier there. There's a little curl in the circulation there.
I'm seeing that, Tom.
Yeah, it's almost a little like a little hook echo.
Yeah, a little hook echo. That's probably what that radar indication is that the National Weather Service is going off of, why they issued this warning so quickly when it did appear that these storms were starting to die down a bit. So that's probably exactly what they saw. That's why they've issued this tornado warning. This is a quick moving storm, about 50 mile per hour moving to the northeast right now. Again, that is for southern Cook County. So if you are in that area, you need to get to a safe location, lowest spot of your house. That's what you should do, because we do have that potential threat of a tornado. As Tom said, it's radar indicated. We're seeing a hook echo right there on the radar.
Yeah, and as Morgan pointed out, Alyssa, we're getting a circulation in the velocity field as well down there, albeit a modest-looking one. That's interesting. You know what's interesting, too? I was talking to Lisa Dent on WGN radio the other day, and somebody called in and said, maybe the people don't listen to tornado warnings because we issue so many of them, and there are false alarms. There's been a real effort in meteorology to cut down on the areas being warned so that the false alarm rate goes down, and people take these warnings more seriously if they see the consequences of the warning. It used to be that when you had a tornado, you'd warn for an entire county. And if you had the biggest tornado that Mother Nature makes roaring across a county like Kane County or DuPage County or Cook County, 99% of the residents wouldn't even see that storm. So to them, hearing a tornado warning, they think nothing had gone on until they hear about the damage that it's done. But I was just looking at your map, Alyssa, showing that little tiny area that's been very precisely warned. And that's one of the advantages of this new Doppler system. We're able to target the warnings a little more precisely. See how little that is? That's not an entire county. That's a little piece of a county right there. And that's an attempt to cut down on the overwarning of tornadoes and all that goes on, so that people know when they hear a tornado warning, chances are there's really something cooking out there, and that's to be taken very, very seriously. By the way, we welcome our listeners on WGN Radio who have been, WGN Radio has been simulcasting our tornado and severe storm coverage. And I want to thank my colleagues, Bill Snyder, Alyssa Donovan, Morgan Kolkmeyer. The whole team is in here tonight. So what a great team. And Morgan, by the way, do you have to get up at 2:30 in the morning tomorrow, or are you going to get a break?
So we got a break, yeah.
Good. Well,
I'm off tomorrow. Hey, I can show you guys that latest tornado warning as well.
Go to Max 2.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, there's a look at it. We keep losing access out here, actually, guys, so you're going to have to show it on your computers.
Oh, we're seeing what you're looking at there, Alyssa.
Morgan.
I'm sorry, Morgan. That was Morgan. You can see a little couplet there.
There it is. There's your warning. Southern Cook
there
County.
it is.
Yes.
Good.
So basically I-57 and east in Southern Cook County. That includes Madison, Chicago Heights, Park Forest, Sauk Village, Linwood, and really especially the central and eastern edge of that tornado warning. That's where we're really watching now. We did have radar indicated rotation. This is in place until 8:45. It's 8:44 right now, so we'll see if they extend this at all. They may actually allow it to expire. I'll show you those velocities, Tom. Not really seeing.
And they just expired at Morgan.
Those indications, there you go. So they've expired that Southern Cook County tornado warning now, kind of losing its luster a bit in terms of any kind of rotation. But that's what it looks like on the radar, likely bringing you some heavy rain and some gusty winds now.
You know, you made an interesting point before about how a single radar, trying to find these couplets sometimes is difficult. You know, the wonderful thing about the Weather Service system is we've got terminal Dopplers at Midway Airport, terminal Doppler up at O'Hare. We have the Romeoville Doppler radar. We've got the Northern Indiana Doppler looking in on our area, and one up in Milwaukee as well. And so it's really helpful to have multiple radars looking in on the same area. And if we are losing detail close into a particular radar, because you know, we're over-scanning or we're under-scanning what's going on, you have a chance of catching that on other radars that are scanning the same airspace and looking for detail like that, and plug in some of the holes that might result from having a single radar to look at what's going on. Well, look at that, guys. It's on the shoreline and emerging out over Lake Michigan, except down on the southern end of Cook County.
Yeah.
So we're about ready to send this thing packing along with its severe weather threat. But boy, there's still some action to go. You folks in northwest Indiana are not out of the woods yet, nor are our southern suburbs down south of Joliet and toward Kankakee.
Yeah, you know, Tom, I should mention for our Indiana listeners, there is a new tornado warning in effect until 9:30 p.m., and that's in effect for southern Jasper County.
Yes.
Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Goodland or near Remington, moving to the northeast at 55 miles per hour. So this dangerous storm will be impacting the Remington area in about 5 minutes from now. So that's something to watch as well.
Good to know. Yeah, and that whole red shaded area, that's the warning.
It is.
The extent of the warning right there. Yeah. Morgan, did I hear you trying to say something?
Oh, nope. I was just zooming in on what Bill was talking about,
Oh, yeah.
so you could see where that southern Jasper County tornado warning's located there.
Yeah. Monticello, Fowler, Carpenter. I know Jerry Howard, one of our news writers, comes up from northwest Indiana. So, Jerry, there's your home territory right there.
And you know, this tornado warning that's in effect over these Indiana counties, you know, it looked like this storm was sort of subsiding, but look at this, it's just intensifying again, which is why these tornado warnings have been issued for those areas a little bit closer to central Indiana right now. So if you are in those counties, you do need to get into a safe location because we have that potential of a tornado in those areas.
Yeah, we've got to shut down the supply of warm, latent heat energy rich air that fuels these things. And the front will do that very expeditiously in the next hour or so. But for the time being, areas still in the warm air and back behind or out ahead of the wind shift with the cold front are still, you know, they have juicy air there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Live, look at this. Live pictures from our crews up in Belvedere.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And you know what, Tom? I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So this is because we have reports of a roof collapse in Belvedere that may have been related to a possible tornado. At this point, we're calling it thunderstorm wind damage. But we do know that there was a concert going on at the time of this roof collapse. Possible some injuries in there. And this is the Apollo Theater. Again, this is in Belvedere, and this is in Boone County, which was one of the areas that was briefly under a tornado warning earlier this evening. So it is possible that that could have caused some of the damage that we are seeing here. And you can see a live look, plenty of police presence. It looks like fire crews are there as well. Of course, we'll continue to keep you updated on this. I believe we do have a crew there. That's why we're getting this live picture. So I'm sure we'll get a lot more information on that. But that is one of the most significant reports that we've seen come through of some of the damage that this storm has done as it's tracked across northern Illinois today. We've also heard reports of trees down, poles down. We know that there's about 36,000 people with power outages right around the Rockford area. That's from ComEd reporting that. So plenty of damage caused by this storm. And again, what you're looking at right now on your screen is a live picture of Belvedere. That's in Boone County, where we have the potential of some possible tornado damage, likely thunderstorm damage of a theater, the Apollo Theater, where there are some injuries related to a building, roof collapse rather, at a building that is at 104 North State Street.
You know, Alyssa, if you're watching that, there was a gurney being moved out there. I hope that's not the sign that people have been hurt out there.
I hope not.
That sure looks like it. And you can tell there's an urgency to the action just watching how people are moving around. Our first responders, what they come across in these post-storm damage situations, it's got to be heart-wrenching. And what will we do without these folks coming in and digging people out of debris and everything else? That does not look good. No. You know, I got some pictures on social media out of Iowa. I'm trying to track down where exactly it was taken. There's one at an airport that looked like that, with that pile of debris. The storm clearly did some very serious damage. There's Morgan, that's the tornado. That's the couplet with the tornado warning in Jasper County, Indiana.
So that's just to orient you. That's I-65 there in the middle of your screen. So Chicago would be far top left outside of the screen. So southern Jasper County, just south of Carpenter, where you're seeing that couplet. Again, let me circle it for you so you know exactly what we're talking about here. That's what we're watching for. What the National Weather Service is saying. Likely a tornado going to enter southern Jasper County. So into the Remington area of southern Jasper County. Your warning there is in place until 9:30. You're under tornado warning. So Remington, Carpenter, I-65 near that area, under the gun for potentially that tornado. It's again moving north and eastward, so we'll pass over I-65 here as we go into these next several minutes.
You know what, Morgan? I'm looking at the Storm Prediction Center plot of filtered storm reports. My word, 42 reports of tornadoes from southern Wisconsin through Iowa, Illinois, down into western Tennessee, Arkansas. There are a total of 252 severe weather reports, including 127 large hail reports. So this is a national type story, and we are but a part of it up here, this mammoth spring storm. And it's an offshoot of, these atmospheric river systems, these Pineapple Express systems that come off the Pacific Ocean. And then at this time of the year, it's getting pretty warm down south. I saw a report the other day, the Gulf of Mexico is running about 1 to 2 degrees warmer than average. Doesn't sound like much, but that adds some additional moisture to the air, and moisture carries latent heat energy, and that's part of the fueling system for these big spring-type storm systems.
And in that southern Jasper County tornado warning, we're likely seeing that area of rotation, that potential, and what the National Weather Service is saying, likely tornado moving over I-65 right now near that Remington and Carpenterville area. It's moving northeast as well, so next up, Milroy, this is headed toward you. Again, we're talking far southern Jasper County, so Chicago in this location would be on the far top left outside of your screen, just to orient you exactly where we're at. There's the warning, the far bottom portion of your screen. They're just extending it into the South Bend, Indiana area, actually. Well, you can't see it. It's under that banner.
Yeah. But we get the idea there, yeah.
Yeah, that's where your warning is. There's a closer look at it.
There it is.
So right over I-65 right now is where that potential tornado is, and it's tracking east-northeastward.
And look at the expansion of the thunderstorm warnings in northwest Indiana now. So look at that. Yeah, that goes across Lake County, Porter County, LaPorte County, even over into St. Joseph County, up out by the South Bend area. So, boy, this whole line is crossing some real terrain, no question about it. Yeah,
and they're keeping that severe thunderstorm warning for far southern Cook County and eastern Will County, and they're keeping that tag of tornado possible. Just a heads up, they're keeping 80-mile-per-hour wind speeds. That Cook County and Will County area, that's in place until 9 o'clock. As you look toward the northwest Indiana area, those ones you were just mentioning, Tom, that severe thunderstorm warning, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts expected, and that's going to continue. It looks like it's in place until 9:30, and then in the far southern Jasper County is where we have the tornado warning. That's the one where we're looking at potentially a likely tornado. I can go back to it so you can see where it's at over I-65 in these loops.
Yeah.
Yep, so that's the tornado warning, and that one is for far southern Jasper County until 9:30.
Yeah, and the juxtapositioning of those different colored areas indicates there's a circulation both to and away from, toward and away from the radar. Mm-hmm. And the implication of that is there's a rotary circulation there, probably a counterclockwise meso-low. and a mesoscale type thunderstorm complex, and that's a proxy for tornadoes. That's a pretty good little couplet we saw. I think the best one we saw today, Morgan, wouldn't you agree? That was the one that you had up
near Harvard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. That was the one that was started near the Belvedere area where that live video we just saw from that concert venue with the roof collapse. That's that same couplet that tracked northeast right over Harvard. So I'm interested to see what happened out there.
Me too.
On the ground, actually.
Well, and you spent time. You worked in the Rockford market. You know that area intimately.
Did. Yes, I do. I got a lot of family in Belvedere. You guys mentioned McChesney Park. Marcus LaShock's parents. My parents live right by there, so I immediately was texting them, and they're all good too. So
that's good.
Yeah, we're doing good here. This whole line of storms is pushing closer to the lake. We're still under that severe thunderstorm warning for far southeastern Cook County and Will County for the next 5 minutes, keeping that 80-mile-per-hour wind gust tag there. Otherwise, that northwest Indiana is really where we're watching now. Southern Jasper County and Lake and Porter County, all of which tornadoes possible, but that Jasper County one right over I-65, right near Carpentersville, headed northeast toward Milroy. That's where we're watching the potential for those tornado, for that tornado, I should say.
You know, it's interesting. Several years ago, Pam Grimes, longtime producer, and I went out to Belvedere, and we were marking the 50th anniversary of that terrible April 21st, 1967 tornado that threw a school bus across a farm field as the kids were getting out of school.
The Belvedere?
Yes, the Belvedere tornado. And we talked to 4 of the survivors. They were children at the time this thing hit. And they recounted what it was like getting out of school. They got onto the bus. The bus driver said, "Get off here fast." And they ran into the field. And before they could get down in the field, their bus was airborne. And, there were, I think, 29 children killed in that storm. So I'll tell you, that's an area that knows something about tornadoes. No question about that.
And we were just talking about that Harvard storm. There's just a report with our chat that we've got with all of our first responders and National Weather Service. There's a power pole snapped in the Harvard area. So likely some of the damage from that storm that we saw earlier there.
Imagine that, Alyssa. You know, the power it takes to snap a phone pole, you know? Yeah. That's pretty amazing. Has there been any update on power outages in that area, guys? Have you seen anything?
No, the last power outage update we had, Tom, was that 36,000 people, or 36,000 customers rather, were out of power in the Rockford area. That's from ComEd. And of course, Rockford is where we saw some of those strongest storms move through earlier this evening. So that's the latest report we have on power outages.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I know our news colleagues have been busy. We've kind of occupied the space here for a while. They've been busy collecting information. We'll have that coming up on the 9 and 10 o'clock news programs. I'll tell you one thing. It's though I fear for the folks in Northwest Indiana and our southern suburbs who have yet to deal with the effects of this, but it does appear this thing is making progress out of the area. The thinking all along had been by 10 o'clock, this would be pretty much over, except for maybe parts of Northwest Indiana, and there it would be ending imminently.
Yep.
So
the modeling has been just rock solid on this whole thing.
Incredible.
I mean, it really has. I mean,
Incredible.
we've been talking about this storm for days, and it's been well advertised.
It has.
Responded exactly the way we thought it would. So let's hope for the best for our friends that have been
hit by
impacted.
this storm. Isn't that the truth, Bill? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something, guys. We'll keep everybody posted.
Is that a new tornado
That's a
warning?
new
We've
tornado
got a
warning.
warning
Yeah, I
in
see that.
Indiana, it looks like.
Wow.
All right, that's for Lake and Porter County until 9:15. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Hobart, moving east at 65 miles per hour.
Wow.
Let me zoom out here, get you that warning. So that does include Valparaiso. In the red there, Maryville, basically I-65 near Hobart, all the way south to about Winfield. Then it stretches east all the way through the rest of Porter County. You are under a tornado warning now, again, until 9:15. That is capable of producing a tornado, obviously. It's moving eastward at 65 miles per hour. I'm going to get you some velocity loops going on up there.
By the way, I'm looking here, Ainsworth, Indiana, Wheeler, Indiana, Edgewater, Indiana, Suman, Indiana, and Valparaiso, as you mentioned, Maryville on the west end of that tornado warning. And by the way, this squall line that's barreling out of northeast Illinois is now punching across Lake County in Indiana and headed for that same area. So there's some rough weather ahead there yet. before things calm down.
Sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can get a better look at some of this. We're getting on the edge of that K-lot radar, so I've got to find a new one to pick up this.
Yeah, while you're working on that,
A little
Morgan, I
bit
can just
better.
talk about this tornado warning that we have in effect. This is again for Lake and Porter County right now, and you can see those storms have really strengthened. If we can take Max 1, you can see that those storms have started to strengthen as they've moved across northwest Indiana. Where we've seen some of those severe thunderstorm warnings in effect recently, and now we have seen that tornado warning in effect. Again, that is for Lake and Porter County. We're keeping an eye on this, looking at the potential. This is till 9:15 tonight, and this is a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. Morgan said this is near Hobart, and it's moving east at 65 miles per hour. That rotation near that area and along the line in Lake County has intensified, and it has that embedded rotation characteristic, which will favor tornado, which is why that tornado warning has been issued. Again, that's for eastern Lake into Porter counties. So we're keeping an eye on that for you. If you're in that area, be aware we could be seeing a tornado shortly here. We have that indication. So if you can get to a safe place in your house, that's a good time to do it right now. If you are in your car, if you're listening to us on WGN radio, definitely time to get into a safe place as well. So just keep an eye on that. We're keeping an eye on that for you, rather. And again, this is a tornado indicated to produce moving east at 65 miles per hour. This is near Hobart, Indiana, and that's continuing to move into Lake and Porter County tonight.
Guys, some late arriving reports flooding 1 mile northeast of Oak Forest. A foot of water is standing on Cicero and 159th Street at the underpass there. Lots of flood reports, numerous public reports of flooded roadways in Morton Grove. In DuPage County, a foot of standing water in residential areas of Wooddale. We have reports of traffic stopped on I-94 earlier this evening at Winnetka Road underpass due to flooding right there. And here's the flooding in Monee. Streets and yards with flooding in that area. And a late arriving report on a wind speed, they clocked a 63 mile per hour gust at the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Romeoville. 7/10 of an inch, that was the diameter of hail that hit just north of Valparaiso, and a report of 1 inch diameter hail. Wanata, Indiana, 1.25 inch sized hail. So, wow, 1 inch at Kingsford Heights earlier this evening. So, boy, here's 1.5 inches Walkerton in St. Joseph County in Indiana. So it's kind of your full service severe weather outbreak. Hail, tornadoes, flooding. We will be interested to see what's gone on, though, with that roof collapse and how many more reports like that we get in the wake of these storms. Guys, anything new that you're seeing out your way?
You know what? I'm not seeing anything new here, but I can run through what's going on right now and just that latest tornado warning. If you guys want to take Max 2 for me, we do have a tornado warning issued for parts of Lake and Porter County. This is in place until 9:15. We have that storm located near Hobart, moving east around 65 miles per hour. This is radar indicated rotation. So if you're in the red there, Hobart stretching down I-65 to Winfield, including Maryville, you're under that tornado warning. It goes all the way east into basically the rest of Porter County, south of Interstate 80, through the Valparaiso area. I'm just adding some locations here. Lake of the Four Seasons. You're also under the tornado warning. I'm trying to get a good look here on our velocity, but it's tough when you get that far away.
Yeah.
They start to cross over a bit. So I'll at least show you the radar and what that looks like, just so you know exactly where you need to pay attention. I can throw the warnings on over that. So there's the area right there, that thunderstorm that's now moving basically right onto the county line of Lake and Porter County, eastward around 65 miles per hour. If you want, I can put a track on that. Let's pause this radar and add a track going east at 65 miles per hour. And what to expect here. Stretch this pretty far to get that far out. Well,
Sorry.
It's going to exit out. Basically, it's on your heels. So if you're in the Valparaiso area through Porter County, right along and south of Interstate 80, the Valparaiso area, you are under that tornado warning.
Guys, on Max 1 here, I've got kind of a composite of the warnings. It's interesting, they've added Kane County as a flood warning. Bill, have you heard anything more about that?
But there was certainly reports of heavy rain that fell through that area with the first wave of storms, and then now the second line went through. So there is, it's possible that there could be some residual standing water from, basically two separate waves of thunderstorms that went through the area.
Look at the extent of the tornado watches at this late hour of the night. And there is satellite and radar, and you see the line roaring across Lake County in Indiana and down into eastern Kankakee County, far eastern Will County. And then there's a second line that runs from just west of South Bend down toward Remington and Rensselaer, as you can see there in northwest Indiana. So that's something. Here's a model forecast, and you can see the precipitation moves out now. We got some brief clearing. And then by morning, we'll get backside winds in here, and they'll be formidable. See the pink and white there? That means there could be some snowflakes mixed with the rain showers. How's that for a change from 70-degree temperatures inside of just 24 hours? And it will be windy tomorrow. That's going to be a big part of the weather story. But the sun will be back, and we'll be up close to 60 on Sunday. And guess what, guys? We may all be back here again Tuesday and Tuesday night, because there's a second.
That's an election night too, so we hopefully.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I hadn't put two and two together.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that could be a wet election night and day around here.
Yep.
Yeah. With again thunderstorms. It looks like it would start cool in the morning with a north-southeast wind, and then the warm front would go through, and we'd be up in the 60s later in the day. Well, I'm going to be interested to hear what our news folks have gathered. They've been busy at work back in the WGN newsroom. I'm sure compiling all the reports and giving us more information on power outages and the growing list of damage reports that always show up in the wake of these storms. But boy, it's been quite an evening.
Yeah, I want to take you back just one more time to that tornado warning that we have in effect. That is for Lake and Porter County, and you can see our radars going over it right now. But that is across northwest Indiana. We have a line of thunderstorms that has the capability of producing a tornado with that system moving through. Again, that is Lake and Porter County in Indiana. So we're keeping an eye on that. If you live in that area, you should get to a safe place. Morgan?
Yeah, I can actually give you a closer look at the tornado warning. I've got it up on my screen now. So that's for parts of basically central and very far eastern Lake County. So it doesn't include a whole lot of that area, but I-65 and east until you get to the county line from Hobart south to Winfield. That it stretches into a bigger portion there of Porter County. Does include Valparaiso. You have the tornado warning in place until 9:15. We don't have a confirmed tornado. We do have radar indicated rotation there. So that's what we're keeping an eye on. You can see just the bit of a wider view. You have that orange shading. That's your severe thunderstorm warning. That's also for Lake and Porter County. That is in place until 9:45. 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible with that. Here's a look at what your radar looks like during that. Looks like they've extended that tornado warning now into the South Bend. Is that LaPorte County area, including just east there?
Yes.
Of Valparaiso.
I'm waiting for it to show up on one of my other systems.
I've got it over here. So that includes Westville, Hanna, Kingsford Heights, Hamlet. That's LaPorte County. So they probably picked both us up and South Bend TV stations. But our current thinking here with this tornado warning is that Valparaiso immediate area right now, and then stretching further eastward till you get through that county line. Wider view just to show you exactly where all those warnings are. That southern Jasper County tornado warning has now been allowed to expire. Now it looks like we've picked up a severe thunderstorm warning, though, for more of Jasper County and parts there of the northwest Indiana area. Do you guys have any information on that one?
I don't, but I am making note of the fact that the warnings have been dropped now in northeast Illinois. So that's interesting. We still have some storms going down in Kankakee, eastern Will County. But so see, this front is steadily clearing the area.
Yeah.
I can't get over the fact we've been talking about thunderstorms moving anywhere from 55 to 70 miles an hour all afternoon and evening. Boy,
all week.
Yeah.
All week we've been talking about it, right?
Going to happen, yeah.
Yeah,
and
we do. Yeah, that tornado, or I'm sorry, that severe thunderstorm warning I just mentioned, that new one that was just issued for mostly Jasper County, but obviously into parts of Newton, far southern Porter County, that has just been issued until 10 p.m. It's for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts there. So that's the latest here. And actually, just this update, you can see that red tornado warning. It's been canceled for Lake County in northwest Indiana. It is still in place for Porter County and stretches eastward into LaPorte County at the moment.
Yeah, Morgan, as you mentioned, that LaPorte County, it's for central LaPorte. You know, that the Northern Indiana National Weather Service handles that area, and they just put the warning out at 9:07. And, you know, as Tom mentioned about these storms moving at highway speed, it's not often that you get a tornado warning issued for your area, and yet the warning is only in effect for about 20 minutes. Usually we can, you know, they can run for 45 minutes to an hour, but this one is in effect only until 9:30. So that just gives you an indication. We've been talking all along, all week, on how these storms will be moving rapidly and that you will not have a long lead time to take necessary precautions as the storms move through. So here we are in LaPorte, Indiana, LaPorte County. If you're watching us from that area, you need to take cover immediately and for about the next 20 to 25 minutes until these storms move through.
You know, I'd love to talk to some pilots, commercial airline pilots. I'm sure flights were interrupted at O'Hare for a time. The winds are 190 miles an hour over parts of Illinois, up at 34,000 feet. You know, we don't regularly look at that altitude outside weather offices, but that is a stunning wind. You even come down to 18,000 feet, it's 130 miles an hour, the winds are. And you come down to 5,000 feet, the winds have been blowing at 75 miles an hour. You know, it's really stunning. That these storms are blowing up in such a windy environment. Little wonder they're producing a lot of wind damage and rotating in some cases. But I wonder, flying through them must be a bit of a choppy affair. You know how when you're in a flight at flight level and all of a sudden the plane starts rocking around and all, what you're doing there is many times going through a wind shear situation, an area where the winds vary with space. Can you imagine the kind of wind shear that's going on and rocking airline flights all through the central United States with this big storm in place? It's something. We have issues down here on the ground with it. There are probably issues aloft. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about what this has done as it's plowed, it's made its way all the way from Iowa and Missouri across the Midwest.
Yeah, and I know, speaking of the airplanes, I know they're working on getting in some video, so we'll show you that shortly as soon as we get that loaded in of a lot of people waiting at O'Hare because of all the cancellations and delays. In the meantime, while we're working on that, I'll give you an update on our current warning situation. Tornado warning still in place for Porter County. It includes Valparaiso. Anybody in the red there, you need to be in your safe place. Basement, lowest level of your home. If you don't have that, put as many walls between you and that potential tornado as possible. This is radar indicated rotation. They have extended this into LaPorte County. If you're in the orange, that's a severe thunderstorm warning. So you've got the severe thunderstorm warning in place until 9:45 for this area of Lake County and then the rest of Porter County. You have the tornado warning in place until, it says 9:15. It's 9:12 right now, likely screaming further eastward near the Valparaiso area and then into LaPorte County. I can show you a wider view. Those newer severe thunderstorm warnings we have. Most of Jasper County under this, parts of Newton County. That's our newest one. We're looking at 65-mile-per-hour speeds for that actual storm movement. Again, those gusts up to 70 miles per hour, and you have that severe thunderstorm warning in place until 10 p.m. That's that full Jasper County, parts of Newton County, and again, the tornado warning. Valparaiso, this is right over you. Libertyville, if you're into LaPorte County, New Durham, Kingsford Heights, Hannah, this is all moving again into that LaPorte County area for the tornado warning. Can give you that wide view of some of those warnings right now. I think Lourdes has some video actually she wants to show us, guys.
It's incredible how quickly this is all moving through the area, right? But you guys were talking about what the number that this is doing on air travel today, and we're actually getting some pictures that are coming in from O'Hare, and you can see that that airport is jam-packed tonight because of all the cancellations and all the delays that are being reported. In fact, right now, O'Hare delays about 47 minutes or so they're averaging, but they've canceled 253 flights so far. And take a look at that video. There you can see those are passengers either waiting to get their luggage, waiting to get to get to board their planes. They are just stuck right now because a lot of flights not getting out. 253 cancellations at O'Hare Airport tonight. Midway, similar numbers, about 35-minute delays are saying on average, 129 cancellations at least so far. I imagine that that's going to get worse as the night continues.
I would imagine as well, it'd be extremely a long way for these folks to get on their way. Probably many of them, perhaps most of them, will be spending the night there because the airline's going to have to reboot as well. Presumably that is the same situation that is happening at Midway as well. There was reports, and I'll mention this briefly, our producers, of the Apollo Theater in Belvedere collapsing. An active rescue effort is underway. We are hearing about reports of people being trapped. In a little while, when the tornado warnings expire and watches expire, we're going to talk to a gentleman who was outside of the theater when all of this happened. About 7 o'clock tonight, there was 2 heavy metal bands just beginning their acts, and then this weather front blew through there. And again, the reports that we are hearing, and this is some live video, is that the roof has collapsed at the historic Belvedere Theater. And Morgan, I know you're very familiar with that area there, and I'm sure it was a beautiful theater. Probably aged somewhat, and with these kinds of winds, even the most sturdy, most up-to-date buildings will probably have a hard time sustaining that.
And as we've been monitoring some of these pictures, there were a number of ambulances there at the scene, I'd say about 15 minutes ago, and you can see that those have now cleared out of that area, and they're starting to do somewhat of a cleanup this evening. But again, that's in Belvedere, about 70 miles or so northeast of Chicago. We should be getting a live report here in the next half hour or so. We do have crews on the way there, and of course on the way to some of the other damage that we've been reporting. But as Tom mentioned a little bit ago, he said, look, you get to see most of the damage in the daylight. So right now we are getting reports of damage, but we really are not able to see it until the sun comes up in the morning. That's when we'll really have a good idea of what's going on out there.
It'll be a very active overnight, obviously, with the many first responders throughout the area, still trying to get a fix of what's happening in northwest Indiana as well. It seems to be the most active local pattern happening on the weather front. Is that correct, Tom and team?
Yes, you are absolutely right. As is so often the case, Patrick, that's the last place for the storms to exit, and they're still vigorous right there. Guys, to give you an idea, you were mentioning the airport. Can you imagine, not only do they have delays here, but they've got all these connecting flights across states that have been ravaged by these storms. Look at this latest tally. There have been 43 tornadoes across the country, most of them in a set of states from Illinois and Iowa and Missouri, south to Texas and Arkansas. 83 high wind reports, 12 hail reports, more than 253 reports, and that list keeps going. Look at some of the wind gusts. Down at the University of Illinois, they had 71 mile per hour winds. Mattoon, 67 mile per hour winds. Romeoville, 63. And here are some of the rain reports. O'Hare Field, 197. Flossmoor, close to 2 inches. Same in Wilmette and Glendale Heights. Wow, this has been a wet season. All of these are active National Weather Service warnings. Still tornado watches from parts of northern Indiana right down to Louisiana. The thunderstorm and tornado warnings are in these red rectangles. Now, here's what's coming in for tomorrow. These are wind advisories. The storm sits up here, not far from the Twin Cities. Its backside circulation will be the next to impact our area. You'll feel that rattling western exposure windows by morning and during the day tomorrow. They've got wind advisories here. And as you go up north, there are blizzard advisories. Look at the high wind warnings through the central Appalachians. We've got a flood warning in effect from Kane County through northern DuPage, northern Cook, and southern Lake County. And then high wind warnings out west, including red flag warnings for fires. And look at the blizzard and winter storm warnings through the North Woods. So I guess saddle up the snow machines and head north this weekend if you're so inclined. And we could do this all again next week with another storm system that, get this, may be centered on Election Day through the center of the country. Wow. That will have an impact here in Chicago. Here are the active warnings. Still a tornado watch in effect, but that comes down at 10 o'clock, and I suspect in practice the severe weather threat has ebbed, except maybe down here in Iroquois and parts of Kankakee and maybe extreme eastern Will County in northwest Indiana.
75 mile per hour gust as it moves through Valparaiso, so I'm sure we're going to hear something about damage in that
Damage
area.
in northwest Indiana, yeah absolutely. If you missed that, Bill said that was Bill Snyder, 75-mile-per-hour wind gusts. And
Valparaiso, yep.
yeah, that's something. And you know, Patrick, isn't that sad? And Lourdes, that theater, boy, you go to a concert and you have the roof cave in on you. You know, isn't that awful? It's going to be interesting to hear what folks there have to say about that debacle. You know, these storms are unforgiving.
Thankfully, Tom, we do have that tornado warning where we had that 75-mile-per-hour wind gust report that they just mentioned near Valparaiso. That was that tornado warned area in Porter County. Yeah. Now it's been canceled for Porter County. So that tornado warning, not technically in our area. I know some areas in LaPorte County can still see us. So there is still a tornado warning for LaPorte County. But as far as Porter County, Valparaiso, you are no longer under the tornado warning. You are still under a severe thunderstorm warning. That one's in place until 9:45. So still some 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts there. And again, we do still have those severe thunderstorm warnings through Jasper and Newton County. These two counties, one warning in place until 10 p.m. That's looking like 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts.